This is the heart of the Teutoburger Wald, a relaxing and peaceful forest near Hanover in northern Germany. I'm Matthew Settle. In 9 AD, this place was anything but peaceful. It was a battleground where 18,000 Roman soldiers, led by their commander Varus, were ambushed by thousands of German tribesmen, led by the former Roman soldier Arminius. For 3 days, Varus would try to fight his way out of a death trap.
Hoje, com a tecnologia dos videogames, podemos visualizar como foi a batalha. O grande número de soldados, a formação das tropas em combate e a maneira como a batalha foi vencida. Veja o que os generais gostariam de ver agora em Batalhas Decisivas. Batalhas Decisivas. Hermann, o Germânico. No ano 9 d.C., Roma estava confiante em seu poder imperial e com razão. O imperador Augusto governava havia 36 anos. Durante esse tempo, ele reformou o exército, colocou legiões sob seu único controle e expandiu as fronteiras do império. Os romanos nunca estiveram tão bem.
This is a sense of power unlimited and Rome's right to rule. So there's tremendous confidence. The gods are on Rome's side.
Augusto era sobrinho neto de Júlio César. Ele acreditava descender do deus Apolo e deu seu nome a um dos meses do ano, agosto.
But if he was a god, he was certainly in disguise. He was short, he walked with a limp, and at the age of 72, he could only see out of one eye. But with that one eye, he had a great vision for his empire.
Augusto expandira as fronteiras romanas para protegê-las de invasões. Ele se orgulhava porque as tribos que viviam fora dos limites haviam sido colonizadas e adotaram os costumes romanos. Isso parecia funcionar até mesmo nas áreas mais selvagens do Império, como a Germânia, a atual Alemanha. Novas vilas eram construídas. Mainz, Colônia e Bonn eram cidades militares romanas e ficavam a oeste do rio Rhine. A leste do rio Rhine era outra história. As terras entre o Rhine e o Elba sempre foram um território perigoso. O jovem comandante romano Drusus lutara ali contra as tribos germânicas 20 anos antes. Ele as afastara até o rio Elba antes de cair de seu cavalo e morrer aos 29 anos. Mas antes de morrer, ele conseguira pacificar a região. Agora chegava a hora de romanizar essas terras tribais.
In 7 AD, Augustus Caesar appointed Quintilius Varus as governor of Germania. His job was to set up administrative systems in the Rhineland and turn it into a proper Roman province. Varus had an eventful family history. Both his father and his grandfather had committed suicide after political failure. But Varus had no intention of continuing this family tradition.
Varus was brought in from the east. He had been a governor of Syria. It was said by one of the ancient sources that Varus was a crook. Varus, when he went to Syria, was poor and Syria was rich. And when he left, Varus was rich and Syria was poor.
Mas Varus era administrador e não comandante de batalha.
He thought that the German people had advanced so far along the process of provincialization that they were eager to learn how to work with Roman law and Roman principles of government.
Depois de chegar à Germânia, Varus tentou preparar um sistema de impostos nas regiões tribais e criar boas relações com os líderes locais. O mais proeminente deles era Arminius. Suas terras ficavam entre os rios Rhine e Elba. Arminius já parecia romano em tudo, menos no nome. Ele tinha cerca de 25 anos e passara a vida adulta no exército romano. Ele era oficial dos auxiliares. Os soldados auxiliares eram recrutados em províncias e nas fronteiras. Eles serviam em unidades de 500 homens e eram comandados pelos próprios líderes locais. Sua função era auxiliar as legiões. Arminius era um comandante muito hábil. Ele aprendera latim e se tornara cidadão romano como recompensa pelo desempenho no campo de batalha.
Varus, the Romanized tribesman, was an example of what could be achieved in the region. The two became firm friends and aided the officers' mess.
Arminius is a man with a foot in both camps. figures such as Arminius, who both relate to the local native population and the Roman authorities, are crucial to the whole project of the Roman Empire.
But behind the smiles, the reality was completely different. Most of the tribes feared that Varus would force them to pay heavy taxes to Rome, instead of the goodwill gifts or tribute they normally sent to the emperor.
It looks as though, from Varus right up to the imperial throne, there was an expectation that Germany was now ready to be made into an ordinary province. They were ready to pay their taxes like everybody else, and they miscalculated.
And the tribal leaders feared that if their lands became part of a Roman province, they would lose all their power and influence.
Political independence, which had existed as a client state, was be gone forever. And that was a hard pill to swallow for the leaders unless they had some really clear guarantees that they were going to be employed in this new provincial regime.
Arminius sabia que eles tinham razão. Durante seus anos no exército, ele conhecera a mão de ferro do governo romano. Varus precisava ser retido.
He was the leader of the resistance movement, and he certainly knew enough about Roman society, and especially the Roman army, to really know what he was resisting.
He was around Varus's camp, and when others told Varus not to trust him, not to believe him, that he might be a traitor, Varus said, "He's my friend." And he believed him.
He's overconfident, essentially. He doesn't really recognise the scale of the threat he's got against him, and he chooses to trust the wrong people with feet in both camps.
Em setembro do ano 9, surgiu a notícia de um levante tribal a dias de distância dali. Varus partiu imediatamente para reprimi-lo, levando 3 legiões, a 17ª, 18ª e 19ª, e os auxiliares germânicos liderados por seu fiel aliado Arminius. A rota seguia por dentro da floresta Teutoburg. A hora de Arminius chegara. Varus estava prestes a descobrir quem eram seus verdadeiros amigos. Varus liderava um exército de 18.000 homens com vagões carregados de provisões. O material dos oficiais incluía grandes camas de madeira. As 3 legiões estavam entre as melhores de Roma e eram o orgulho de Augusto.
Augustus was to refer to military campaigns as fishing with a golden hook. That is to say, you really are taking sometimes a risk with one of your greatest assets, your military manpower.
Os romanos temiam encontrar na floresta um lugar selvagem e primitivo. Para eles, o mundo acabava na grande floresta de carvalhos ao norte.
100 years later than the events we're discussing, Tacitus, writing his Germania, talks about semi-mythical, part human, part animal figures. So there are areas deep in the interior of Germany which are almost perceived as mythical to the Roman elite.
Para as tribos germânicas, as árvores da floresta marcavam locais sagrados. As árvores de Natal que levamos para casa são vestígios de tais crenças. Na floresta, os romanos foram obrigados a abandonar a formação de marcha habitual e fazer uma coluna sinuosa com mais de 3 quilômetros. Um destacamento da cavalaria seguia na dianteira. Varus e seu séquito viajavam no meio da coluna.
At this point, Arminius came to Varus and offered to take his men off and gather up more allies for the battle ahead. Varus thought about it and agreed. And Arminius and his men melted away in the forest.
That's a normal thing for someone who's on the Roman side to do. Absolutely normal. And given that Varus trusts Arminius, it's no surprise that he allows him to do that. Arminius, of course, is doing something quite different. He's taking himself away to rally forces that are going to turn against their Roman allies.
A coluna romana avançava com apreensão. Centuriões experientes espreitavam a floresta escura e sombria, mas Varus estava confiante.
He's also basically seeing this as an exercise in moving through a largely pacified landscape, and that's a dreadful mistake to make.
Arminius was a really capable commander. Varus was kind of a bumbler, but probably his greatest weakness was he didn't know he was a bumbler. He didn't accept advice.
Os romanos estavam confinados a uma trilha estreita na floresta, com uma colina escarpada de um lado e um pântano de outro. E para piorar, o tempo se fechou com chuvas e ventos fortes.
They couldn't deploy in battle line. They couldn't station cavalry on the flanks to protect the infantry from counterattack on the sides, flanking motion. It was a tremendously bad place for Romans to fight.
De repente, centenas de flechas e lanças foram arremessadas das árvores e caíram em frente à coluna romana. Quase 8.000 homens das tribos estavam escondidos entre as árvores. Os romanos ficaram desnorteados. Eles sabiam como mudar a formação diante de um ataque assim, mas não havia espaço. Os soldados se chocavam enquanto procuravam se abrigar. Quando os romanos tentaram escapar por entre as árvores, descobriram que os germânicos haviam preenchido com terra o espaço entre os troncos. Um trabalho que devia ter levado semanas.
What we see is just how much other planning went into this. This has taken a lot of thought. How do you break the army up? And then, once you've got them in some of the least favourable land, how do you capitalise on that?
Varus deve ter recebido a notícia do que acontecera alguns minutos depois.
Communication must have been quite difficult along the line of the column, so terrible things could be happening in one place and the others wouldn't really know much about it. They may hear muffled screams from afar, but they wouldn't necessarily know what was going on.
O restante do exército germânico saiu da floresta pelos dois lados da trilha. Uma chuva de lanças foi seguida pelo combate com espadas.
It was probably never possible to come together in legionary strength because of the nature of the battlefield, which was chosen entirely by Arminius.
Varus had been caught in the perfect ambush. He saw the shocking reality behind the slaughter. He'd been betrayed by a man he was proud to call a friend.
Armínio sabia pela experiência no exército que seria suicídio enfrentar os romanos em campo aberto. Seus homens eram quase todos lanceiros e não teriam chance contra formações disciplinadas. Agora, as legiões estavam em suas mãos, em seu próprio território. Depois do primeiro ataque, os germânicos voltaram para a floresta. Varus retrocedeu por onde chegara e o exército montou vários acampamentos ao anoitecer. O dia seguinte ainda estava úmido e com ventos, mas os ataques recomeçaram.
The weather was pretty desperate. Wind, rain would have made not simply keeping troops together, I think, quite difficult, but also meant that using weapons was difficult. It's rather difficult to use your slings and your bows in those sorts of conditions.
The rain made it difficult for the Romans to come together in a military unit to defend themselves. The rain made it impossible for them to use their bows. The rain made throwing spears useless.
Arminius planejava romper a linha romana em vários lugares, dividir o exército em várias seções e liquidá-las uma de cada vez. Grupos de soldados tentavam escapar, mas eram facilmente derrubados no caminho entre a trilha e o pântano.
The Romans fought in the rain, they fought in the sunshine, but no one can fight in the
Even allowing for the element of surprise. Why were the heavily armed Romans unable to put up more of a struggle against their lightly armed attackers? The answer may have been that Arminius equipped a section of his army with Roman weapons. No Germanic weapons were ever found on this battle site.
A derrota era inimaginável para Varus. Ele fora capturado no meio da floresta com 3 preciosas legiões do imperador. O sonho de Augusto de expandir as fronteiras de um império sem fim se transformara em um pesadelo sangrento. Varus tentou reagrupar no segundo dia, mas não conseguiu se comunicar com a outra divisão do seu exército. Arminius conseguira dividir a coluna romana em duas. Portanto, metade do exército não sabia se a outra metade havia sobrevivido. As divisões da cavalaria romana, impossibilitadas de manobrar na floresta, abandonaram a infantaria, recuando para o rio Rhine.
The survivors managed to hang on through another night. By the morning of the third day, they were exhausted and completely pinned down. Varus and his officers knew that defeat was inevitable, but they also knew that capture meant a horrible death.
You would not have wanted to be a senior centurion who fell into the hands of the Germans. A number of the most senior Romans are wise enough to realise that they are going to have a terrible fate in those hands. They choose suicide.
Para Varus, a humilhação da derrota foi ainda maior pelo fato de ter sido enganado e traído por Arminius.
Varus was a man who I believe would have never even given thought to surrender. The honorable thing for a man in his position to do is to commit suicide. And what more precedent does he need than his own father had committed suicide, his grandfather committed suicide? Does one realistically expect that this is a guy who's going to raise the white flag, so to speak, and say, "Hi, here I am, take me hostage"?
Após a morte de Varus, a resistência do que restara de suas 3 legiões desmoronou.
The slaughter that followed horrified Rome. Corpses were cut into pieces, and hundreds of heads and hands nailed to the trees. Those taken prisoner were dragged to ponds deep in the forest, where their throats were cut, and their bodies were thrown in the water as a sacrifice to the forest gods. Afterwards, for years, the forest floor was white with bones. The Germans cut off Varus's head and sent it back to Rome.
That's how they learned that their army had been defeated, is when, not rumor, but Varus's head arrived.
3 legiões inteiras estavam mortas, quase 18.000 homens. Augusto nunca se recuperou do choque causado pela notícia.
Nightmares. Augustus suffers nightmares with this.
He dismissed his German personal bodyguard. He refused to have a haircut or shave his beard.
Augustus just could not ever quite sleep at night afterwards, and would awaken in the middle of the night yelling, "Varus, Varus, give me back my legions." The Romans never raised those 3 legions again. They went from 28 legions down to 25 legions, and they didn't expand that army for almost 2 centuries.
E com a perda das veneradas legiões de Augusto, Roma temia pela segurança das fronteiras e por uma possível invasão bárbara.
The initial response is panic. This is a very good army that's been pulled apart, and it also represents about 10% of Rome's military manpower. So one of the questions is, where are the enemy going to stop?
Iniciou-se o alistamento militar obrigatório, mas quando ficou claro que os germânicos não cruzariam o Rhine, o temor dos romanos deu lugar à humilhação. 6 anos mais tarde, outro exército enviado para atravessar o Rhine descobriu os ossos dos companheiros massacrados e recuperou os estandartes de águias de legiões derrotadas. Mas as tribos continuavam invencíveis. Os sonhos de expansão haviam acabado e o império não passara do rio Rhine.
When we look at a number of the other defeats in Roman history, what's interesting with this one is it so very explicitly actually stops a pattern of expansion in one area, and that has very long-lasting consequences. It is also something that actually has a direct impact on the very shape of the Roman Empire.
Because of Teutoburg Forest, The Rhineland became a border between cultures, between those speaking Romance languages like French and Italian, which derive from Latin, and those speaking Germanic languages. Arminius had won a great victory, but he was unable to weld the various German tribes into one single force. 10 years later, he was murdered by some of his own followers. But he became a symbol of German national resistance. Later generations would drop his Latin name and call him Hermann the German. In 14 AD, Augustus died. In his will, he warned his successor not to make war east of the Rhine. The Romans had suffered a tremendous blow to their confidence. They'd been outwitted by barbarians. The whitened bones of Varus and his soldiers marked the boundary of the Roman Empire.